Yo, what's going on, guys? Jared here today, wearing my Blue Eyes White Dragon shirt. I am going to be talking about dragons. With the new ban list, we had some more dragon rulers come off the ban list, so we are getting, this is slowly becoming more and more of a competent deck, and I think the deck that we have found here is actually finally usable. I think this is a solid, I'm not going to say tier 1, but this is definitely in my eyes, a solid tier 2 option, a good rogue strategy. And I think it's really interesting. We have non-engine, we have some good combos, some really good end boards. This deck can do a lot. So I'm really excited to show it to you. Again, this is something that me and Nick both worked on and got it down to a good TCG standpoint. The idea was inspired from an OCG deck list that we found, and we modified it to the TCG meta, of course. So some cards are at 1 there, other cards are at 3 here, and then vice versa. So I'll talk about that more in the deck list. But yeah, let's just go ahead, jump right in. And if you enjoyed, please subscribe. Okay, guys, so here is the deck list. It looks like a hodgepodge, but this is how dragon decks used to look like. It is so funny how this deck operates, because it's so much simpler than what we're so used to ways to get to things like Disbotter and Baron and stuff like that. And it's really like refreshing when we were doing like test hands and playing around with it. It's such a fresh breath air. So let's go ahead and jump by card, and then I'll do some explanations while talking about it. So of course, we have one of each of the legal dragon rulers. I have title down here for the one day he will come back, I'm sure of it, with his babies of stream. But along with each of the illegal ones, we have 3 burner, 3 reactant, and 3 lightning. These cards are still phenomenal, but Ash Blossom does hurt on these cards, I will say. But there are also times where you can just play around Ash Blossom and make a Baron beforehand. It doesn't even matter. So again, this deck can do some crazy lines, and you can protect this, or sometimes this is bait and then you can push through it. It's just, there's so many things, but these cards are excellent. I just wanted to point out these dragon rulers are not being used for their when this card is banished effect. These are being used for the banishing 2 fire or dragons or earth dragons or wind dragons to summon themselves. That's their main aspect. And then of course the third effect can come up of discard itself in a fire, itself in an earth, and itself in a wind to monster reborn, search any dragon, or search or destroy a card on the field. So again, these cards still offer great utility. These are some of the first cards ever printed, I believe, that have 3 effects on them. So even today that still holds up. It's just a matter of these cards are still hit. So yeah, super fun, super cool. Happy to see him back in the deck. Next up, I want to talk about tuners. We are playing level 3 tuners as the main package here, which is going to be the Red Rose engine, the Rox Rose engine, and the Basil Rose shoots. So in Japan, they have 3 Red Rose Dragon, and we have it 1. So we are going to play the 1. But Rox Rose still isn't bad as a substitute normal summons to be able to get the Basil Rose shoot. This card is still 2 level 3 tuners, which most of the time is all we need anyway. The last one, where if you start with Red Rose, a lot of the time is going to end up going into like an SP Little Knight or a Cheng Yang just as an extra body. But the 2 is the main part that we need this for. This is pretty much what we were deck building this, actually. Nick actually mentioned that Red Rose is kind of like the Quem of level 3 tuners, because it's 3 tuners in 1 body. And yeah, I agree with that statement. It is pretty much Quem. I thought that was actually really funny. Moving on to the other tuner package, which is the Revolution Synchron. Now, it's important to note that Revolution Synchron you can't use from the hand. This is also a normal summon that you can use, but you can use this to make a Bestial Disbotter with a level 7 dragon, so one of the dragon rulers, and then you can bring it back again and bring back the dragon ruler, and then go into Omega, and then you have the old-fashioned combo of Disbotter ripping 2 cards out of your opponent's hand with Omega, and then you have the Disbotter negate still. So effectively, you're eliminating 3 cards out of your opponent's hand with that line, and that is just that part of your hand. So you still have 2 other cards that you can mess around with. And then 2 tuning to complement the Revolution Synchron, the Milling a Dragon can come up. Very cool. After that, other level 7 engine, which happens to be Kashtira, which is just Unicorn for now. I do have other things I want to talk about in the side deck, but in the main deck currently, Unicorn plus 1 birth and then 2 planet is fine. I think 5 copies is fine. As you can see, 5 is like the magical number for this deck. We have the 5 Rev Synchrons, 4 of the normal summons of the Rocks Rose and Red Rose, and then the 5 Cashdeiras to search the Unicorn to get the 1 birth, because it is 2 level 7s. But don't forget the ripping of the extra deck. That definitely can come up and something to keep in mind. But Unicorn being a perpetual level 7 is super, super strong. And even if you see 2 of it, you can normal summon the second one out if you want to. It's just like, this card is just still really, really strong. And in Japan, they only have 1 of this card. So in the Japanese list, they are playing 1 Unicorn, 1 birth. While here, we can play the 1 Red Rose, but triple Unicorn. So, we have to give and take for what we have. Yeah. And then that's it for the rest of the packages. And then lastly, we have the elemental hand traps, that's what I'll call them. Luckily, a lot of these are very strong right now. Ash is obviously a very strong card. Droll in the current format is extremely strong. Bell going into the next format, even right now, is still pretty decent. And then Moonlight is just a kind of nerfed effect veiler, but it is still good and still interrupts the main thing that you want to interrupt on a going first turn. So all of these cards are still extremely good. And the second really good part about them is they're all like these 3 specifically are level 3 tuners. That is super important. So you're able to still synchro summon and normal summon with them at a worst case, and at a double worst case, they're ultra the elements that you need for the Dragon Rulers. Obviously, we have fire, wind, and earth here that can all be used by banishing them or pitching them with their secondary effects if we really need to, which is super awesome. So a lot of utility and versatility going on here. Now, I want to talk about some stuff. Actually, we'll go to the extra deck first, and I'll talk about the side deck stuff. The 1 Omega and the Dispotter, of course. The 1 copy of Chen Ying, because this card is still very strong. 2 copies of Baron, because you make Baron so easy in this deck, and this card is still a powerhouse, so very strong. 1 copy of Striker. You can use Striker with the Rocks Rose to then give yourself a extra deck monster to be able to go in the SP and get the immediate banish. 1 copy of Heavenly Seals as well, to be able to, as an interruption, and get a Dragon Roar name out of the deck, or the Red Rose, depending on when you're doing it. Like if it's their end phase, you can do it and then have it ready for the next turn. The rank 7 package that gives you an OTK. Pretty much this dragon can go over the Rebellion Dragon, and then this one can attack 3 times with 3,000 attack. Pretty simple. It's 9,000 damage. So easy way to OTK. 1 copy of Zeus, of course. 1 Typhon. Again, this is just very strong right now. This is a card that I feel like not a lot of people may know. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this first part, but the Darkest Dragon Doom Rider, 2 level 7s, once per turn, detach 2 materials, target a face-up card on the field, destroy it. And if you destroy a monster, you can make 1 face-up monster you control gain attack equal to the monster's original level or rank, times 300 till the end of the next turn. But it cannot attack the turn you activate this effect, but it is a quick effect if it has a dragon as a material, and it cannot be used in a damage step. So the main thing is, the Dragon Roars can be used on this to make this a quick effect and be an interruption at the same time. Also, we have Dracosac as just that good old classic pop token thing that we could use for combo lines, and especially outing something like Skill Drain as well, because that is still a card, but it's also a card that you can play in this deck at the same time. And then the 1 copy of Big Eye. Stealing monsters is always broken depending on the game state. Now, I want to talk about the actual side deck and other options that we did not think were actually good enough to make the cut. First of all, Super Rejuvenation. Anyone who played Dragon Rulers remembers this card. This was broken back in the day. But by today's format, and without something like Maxi in the format, Super Rejuven does not cut it right now. The format is just too much. Things like Ash Blossom existing, dedicating baby rulers, you get 2 out of hand too quickly, and it is just not the card that it used to be, at least yet. Maybe if we get the 3rd Dragon Baby, we might be able to do something here, but as of now, this card is just not it. Corsica and Gasarme, these are here as the elemental tuners that you can use. I'll put Flame Guard here as well. That they are elemental tuners that you can use and search with those banish effects of the Dragon Wars if you want to. But like I said, this deck is not built to use those effects. This deck is built to bring them back. So you're really never going to be doing the searching with their effects. Of course, they can come up and you can build it maybe a little bit differently to do that. So maybe if you want to try that out, feel free and let me know how it goes. But for us personally right now, we feel this is the strongest way to have it. And just letting you know these options. Going along with the Flamevale Guard also was the Diabell package. This is a level 1 fire dragon, of course, so we are able to use and take advantage of the Diabell package. Also, she is a level 7, which is very nice. The Wanted can give us a draw, of course, but at the end of the day, the Diabell package is a big commitment, and having more 7s isn't this deck's issue. Having level 3 tuners was the deck issue. So if there was maybe a fire tuner that could be a level 3 instead of a 1, it would be better. And I'm not going to play something like Decatron sending the level 2 Infernoid. That's just like too bad. It's too many bricks. We're not doing that. So this is just not good enough yet, unless we might be missing something. But as of now, I don't think this is it currently. Also, Fenrir. Fenrir definitely could have a place in this deck. I am not opposed to Fenrir. This is a card that would require more testing, how the format goes, etc., etc. But just remember, if you have Fenrir, Unicorn is infinitely worse because you cannot, if you start with Fenrir, you can't get in the Unicorn. The real reason I want Fenrir is just to be a searchable Earth monster. It's really the only reason I would want it for something like Redox or Reactin. But for now, I just don't see it necessary. You care more about the 7s than a Fenrir being in your hand currently. But again, all subject to change. This is all changeable. Nothing is definitely permanent in this deck, so feel free to test it out and try different things. Also, lastly, for things that I think that are definitely worth trying at least, Pot of Prosperity. I think Pot of Prosperity could also have a deck. We were talking about it. I know Nick was mentioning cutting the tunings out of here to be able to play Pot of Prosperity. But right now, the extra deck is a little tight. That banishing 6 is not too confident with a lot of these cards. You really don't have a lot of recursion in this deck other than Dispotter. So, like, when these cards are gone, they are gone. And it's very hard after a certain point of the game to be able to go into powerful extra deck monsters. So you really do not, personally in my opinion, do not want to be banishing that many extra deck cards with something like Pot of Prosperity. Lastly, thing I do not think is good. The bestial monsters. I think that a lot of people are going to try these and they are going to say, but they're really crazy dragons. They're so good. But it's important to understand that at the end of the day, this is not a dragon deck. It is very surprising, but this acts more of an elemental deck. This is a fire, earth, wind deck more than a dragon deck. Of course, you can discard them with the dragons, and of course, you can banish them with the dragon rulers, but these do not synergize well with what we are trying to accomplish with the deck, going into level 10 synchros, going into these attributes that we need to be able to resolve and get these out of the deck so that we can get value later. Being a dark and a light are not helping either. So all these things add up and make this not what I want personally in the deck. But again, I'm always open to suggestions. But that is pretty much going to do it for this video. I find this very fun and very fun and funny as a tier 2 strategy. And if you are itching to play Dragon Rulers, I think this is an excellent choice to be able to give it a shot. Something like this that still has the 12 non-engine that can interact with your opponent on your turn 0, and then at the same time give a massive push that can do a lot of damage and make a huge board, can still do a lot. This is a great pick for that. So overall, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, the deck profile, and the discussion. And of course, if you guys have any suggestions, I am always ears open in the comments, and I usually reply to as many as I can when I have the time to, and read through all of them. So any suggestions, I always appreciate it down in the comments to make the deck better so others can read them as well and make this deck as good as it can be. Again, if you enjoyed the content, please subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate it. But until then, I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.